All right, so you understand or you have an idea about the math class, and maybe you even have an idea about what we're going to talk about today, or typecasting. So when you do math in Java, weird things happen sometimes and you have to kind of understand why. So for example, if I do 8 divided by 5, you can do it in your calculator, that's pretty straightforward. But if you do 8 divided by 5, what answer do you get? You get 1. So realize that in Java, if you have two integers, here we go, if you have two integers and you divide them, the answer is always an integer. And it's not rounded. If I rounded it, the answer would be 2. So it's always just simply truncated, they call it. So the answer is truncated because they are two integers being divided. And the answer is just decimal is cut off. So the answer is just 1. Now, the way we can fix this, say we do want it to be 1.6, I guess it is, what we do is we do what's called typecasting, which for what it means is for 1 second, for this instant in time, that value, it has changed its type. So this is an example of an integer being typecasted. So it goes from 8 to 8.0. So it changed from an integer here to a double here. So when I run this, let's do this. I get the answer that I should get. 1 was before it was typecasted and 1.6 is without. So one of them has to be a double if you want the answer to be a double. Okay? And it always takes the larger one. So what I mean by larger, I don't mean the larger actual value. Just because this is an 8 doesn't mean it's bigger. This would actually work if I made the 5.0 instead. Okay, what I mean is a double takes more energy and more storage space in the computer to recognize. So 5.0 takes a lot more storage than just 5. So that's what I mean by larger. I mean larger in storage space in the computer. So these two values are the same regardless if I make the 8 a decimal or the 5. So how do I do it? So the problem happens when I make and I start using variables, which pretty much is what you're going to do, because why wouldn't you? So, you know, you need numbers, but you don't need the same numbers over and over, right? Okay, so if I take these two and I want to divide these, the same idea, the same thing happens. 8, well, not 8, so I want to do num1 divided by, I got this, num2. So when I do num1 divided by num2, the same thing that happened here is going to happen. 8 divided by 5 is going to be 1. And just so we realize, we're going to flip it around. 2. So that's the last one that we just did. 8 divided by 5. Okay, so that last one is just plain old 1. Now if I flip it around, which I feel like doing now because this is the biggest problem when you're doing computations, is when you do a small one divided by a big one, and you know you want the decimal, but you just forget to typecast. So what happens is you do get 0 in that case. So something like this, I got this, hold on. I just want you to see both. Something like this, a large number divided by a small number, if they're both integers, will always be 0. So just be careful when you're doing math programs that you realize that when you're using numbers. Okay, so how do I fix this? So one idea would be, hey, let's just store the answer in a double. So num2 divided by num1. Okay, and we print that guy out. Here, let's do this. I want to print out num3. So what happens here is it does this math, then it stores it in num3. So the answer might not be exactly what you expect. So the answer here is now, instead of 0, it's 0.0. Actually happening is these two are doing the division, and since they're both integers to start, that it can't change that into a double. So what happens is these two are integers, and then this num3, all it does is basically just put a 0.0 on the end there. So what we have to do is figure out a way, which of course we know already, to fix that problem. So if I have two integers and I want to divide them, say your test average, you have all these numbers you add together and you divide by how many. They're all integers, but your average is a double. So this kind of thing that you have to do is called typecasting. Okay, so you can do it right here. So why don't I do it like this in a variable? You can do it in the output, though we like to avoid too many calculations in an output. So what we do here is we want to put that 0.0 on either the 8 or the 5, either the num1 or the num2, so that one of them at least is a double for just a moment. Now it's just for that instant. It doesn't make, so if I'm changing it here, it doesn't make num2 a double forever. It's just for that instant in time. So this double, num2 is now a double. So if I were to output this, it's going to turn out to be the same as this one. It's basically like I just put a 0.0 on this num2. Okay, so I get that 0.625 instead of the 0. So that's fantastic. So that works whether I put the double here or the double on num1. If I were to put it on num1, you have to be a little careful. You'd have to put it here. And just one of them. Remember, 2 is overkill. You could put it on, like you could put it on 8.0 and 5.0, but that's excessive and it's unnecessary. Okay, so just putting it on 1. So most of the time we do put it on the first one, so that leads us to small problems in our, excuse me, it leads to problems. So I'll show you why. So if I were to put double here, again, it's lowercase double, it's just like you're declaring a variable double. Okay, if you, for some reason, have parentheses here, you will have a problem in this output. Let me just move it up here. Okay, so what I did was I put a double here, and then I put parentheses around here. So the program follows the order of operations, so it will do what's in parentheses first, and then put the double on. So what's happening is it's doing num2 divided by num1, getting 0, and then just putting the decimal on. So that is the issue that comes up with parentheses. So the basic idea is, see, for this one, for the last one here, if I put these parentheses, it's doing the division of integers first and then putting the decimal on. So we want to make it so that they do the typecasting first. So I put the 0.0 on the num2, so I'm putting it right next to it. So it's going to do that first and then divide by num1. So hopefully you see the difference of these two. So this is basically me saying, watch your parentheses. When we do random numbers, you're going to see this is actually extremely important, and you'll get more practice with that kind of thing. All right, so that is typecasting. Momentarily changing the type of a variable in order to make it the output that you desire, or the type of output that you desire. All right, have a wonderful day.